Welcome to Stories here. And we're from the house. We're still doing that. Everything's not all cleared away. And so I'm still telling stories from my home. And that's really not bad. It's good, good. I don't have my mask on, and I apologize for that because I am trying to use that for myself and to remind people that it is the safest thing that we've got right now. But then I'll go on with the story. This morning, I saw on the Facebook pictures and a talk or an ad, or just to let you know, that they were opening up the memorial for World War One. It's going to be downtown. And they gave a few pictures about it, and it said something's going to happen April the 16th, I think. And it'll be colors, a color celebration. It's never been done there for the World War One people. I can't wait to go down there. I am going to try to do it. I'll put on a big, heavy mask and go down there to see it. World War One means a lot to me because I did a lot of research about 4 or 5 years ago, and then told a story for 3 years about the people from the United States who were over in France during World War One. And after you've told a story or tried to find those people, and then they go away because you're not telling that anymore, I miss them. I do. I know enough about some of those people. The nurses are the ones that I love. They really are. And so you miss them and you want them to come back. Well, the other night, when I saw that picture about the memorial, I thought, I'm going to bring out some of those little stories from that. It'll be good to see them again and to think about them. And I call this story The Big Black Dog. It was a man's story, really. The patients were divided into long sort of wards in different buildings, separate buildings. And what they did was that they took 45 into one ward, separate building. And across the street, there was one from this. And there were many, many, because our hospital would take in 1,000 or more if they could get them in when they needed to. The winter that year, this is 1918 that I'm talking to you about, that year in the winter was so cold that it was unbearable. I'd never seen such cold. I lived in Maryland and we didn't have that kind of cold in Maryland. No, not at all. And here the snow was piled up high and the icicles were hanging down off of the roof. And they sometimes, you watched it and you saw them that day or the next day, they touched each other because both had grown. That'll tell you how cold that was. That winter, I was assigned to a different ward. They put me on nighttime duty. That's not bad. I love it. When I get assigned to be on the night self and working at night, I like it because I'm a good nurse and I know how to do what's needed. And if I'm missing a step, I get a doctor. That meant that I was in the ward by myself with my wardman. There was a wardman in one of the wards, and across the road, there was another building with the ward in there, and there was another man. So in that particular area, it was me, 2 men, and 90 patients getting taken care of through the night. And it was cold. Don't forget that. It was a very cold. Well, about 2 o'clock, it was time for me to go across to check on the other one. I had already done the one in the first and then finished out, came back, finished out, and now I was going again. And I told Hawkins, who was the guy that was over working in this first ward, I said, I'll be back soon. Keep it warm and don't forget any of those hot water bottles. That's what's saving their lives, is to keep them hot, to keep them warm. So I went out. Now, it was so covered with snow, and I had to wear so many layers of clothes that if they had just kicked me and pushed me, I could have rolled across the road to the other place. I never did try it, but it often came into my mind that I might, because you had to run over on wooden slabs that were on the ground so that you did not have to walk through the floors of snow. I saw them, did everything I had to do over there. Everything was in a good situation. So I came back. Very dark. It was now about 3 o'clock. Very dark. There was no moon. I didn't see any stars. There was no pretty light coming down to show you anything. And as I crossed over to enter the one I came out of, my first one I came out of, I heard this thump, 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 thump. I stopped where I was standing. Thump, 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 thump. It sounded like it was up against the wooden walls of the buildings. Thump, 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 thump. What can that be? What possibly can that be? And then I saw sort of a shadow of what it was. It was a big dog. I leaned over so I could see a little bit more. Thump, thump, thump. He must have been warming himself by hitting the wall of the building. Oh my goodness, the poor, poor dog. And I went on into the building. I couldn't stay out there. And so I had to get inside. And I went in, and Hawkins came toward me. And I said, Hawkins, this is the strangest thing. There's a big black dog right outside the front there of the building, thumping against the wall. You really mean it? And I said, of course I really mean it. And he turned around, grabbed his coat, stuck his arms in, and he was ready to get out of the building. And before I could say a word or stop him, he was out. It didn't take but maybe 5 or 10 minutes for him to get that dog and lure it in behind him. And he came into the building, and Hawkins said, look at this doggy. Doggy's freezing, miss. Freezing. We've got a serious problem here. This dog is freezing. And I said, well, what do you plan to do? He said, I'm going to take it up there into the little office. There's a stove in there. That dog can at least get warmed. Be sure that you close the door. We don't want the dog running out into the ward where the patients are. Don't forget that. Leave it in that little room. And so he did. But I knew what he was up to. I kept hearing the door open and close, and then open again within maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And then he would be down the floor doing what he was supposed to be doing, checking on the patients, just like I was. And then I would help him, or whistling to this dog. He'd open the door and he'd be gone for a few minutes, and then he'd close the door. Well, in an hour, I was leaving to go across again. And I said, Hawkins, I'm going out across. And now you'll have to take care of the whole ward. Don't forget, and don't give the dog too much time that you miss some of the patients. Oh, I won't. I would never do that, ma'am. Never do that. So I was out, got across, stayed and did for everybody that needed it, took care of those things. And then I came back, just like I should. And we went through that one more time. And I went back across the street one more time. And when I came back, I didn't hear any thump, 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 thump. And I looked over through the glass in the door, and the dog had a blanket on the bottom, on the floor, near the stove, sound asleep, very comfortable, not in trouble at all. And about that time, here comes Hawkins. Ah, miss, I'm so glad that you're back. And he said, we need to talk. I must talk to you. It's getting late. And the other people are going to be coming over here and taking over for us for the night. So I've got to talk to you. I must. Can you just give me a minute or two right now? All right, Hawkins, I will. We have to give a name to our dog. Our dog? Yes, our dog. We brought it in here freezing. We heated it up. We've taken care of it. We saved its life. Yes, it's our dog. And I'm asking you, we need to give him a name. What do you have in mind? I want to name him Prince. He is a fine dog. He is a very fine dog. Prince is a good name for him, ma'am. If that's what you want, you go right ahead. Now, the next step that he took was he opened the door and he whistled a little and he brought the dog out into the ward. Those were all wooden floors. And all that I could think about was what I saw before me. It was a dog that had large paws and a lot of toenails, nails that were going to scratch and make noise on those wooden floors. And he took off down the room, a long, narrow aisle. And they loved him. They sat up. They smiled. Those patients were reaching out, hoping for them to come to them. It made it still to me, a man and a boy loves a dog. And now they have one. Thank you.